Just before I talk about the British contribution, I want to talk a little bit about the context. It is, I think, hard to exaggerate the challenge we face here. The world scientists have been clear that even a 1.5 degree rise in temperatures would be devastating to humanity and to the natural world. And only a few months ago, we heard from what is, I think, the most comprehensive ever assessment of the state of nature. And it was pretty grim news. It tells us that 1 million species are on the brink of extinction. It tells us that since 1964, we've lost 60% of the world's land animals, a blink in evolutionary terms. We learnt that last year, every single minute, we lost the equivalent of 30 football pitches worth of forest. And we hear that by 2050, the oceans will have more plastic in them than fish, if measured by waste. And I think it's fair to say that in our efforts to address the technical challenge of climate change, the extraordinarily important role of nature has, I think, too often been overlooked. The two are inextricably, unavoidably linked. You can't tackle one without also tackling the other. And you cannot hope to get to grips with poverty if the world on which all of us depend is destroyed. At this stage, our collective response, even though it may be growing, still doesn't come close to matching the scale of the challenge we face, and that clearly needs to change. So I'm very pleased that in the coming days we're going to hear from our own Prime Minister about the level of his ambition. We're going to have significant commitments from him and from the British government in relation to raising our contribution domestically and internationally. So at home, in the UK, for example, we're changing our land use subsidy system, which means that instead of using billions of pounds each year, paying landowners effectively just for owning land, we will be making that support completely conditional upon delivering public goods like biodiversity, clean water, flood prevention, and so on. Overseas, we're going to significantly increase our spending on climate and the environment, and we'll be focusing increasingly on nature-based solutions. We're going to develop ambitious new programs to invest in landscape-scale solutions that provide sustainable livelihoods and tackle biodiversity loss at a really big scale. We're going to invest in programs that will not only help coastal communities insulate themselves against the impacts of climate change, but boost food security and restore marine ecosystems as well. Given that 200 million people around the world depend on fisheries for their livelihoods, and around 1 billion people depend on fish as their main source of protein, it is bad news, to put it mildly, that nearly a third of all fisheries have either gone or are on the brink of collapse. And recognizing that over 1 billion people are directly affected by the degradation of forests, and that there is no path to tackling climate change without protecting and restoring forests, we will greatly ramp up our efforts to protect and restore them. The UK has signed up to the manifesto on nature-based solutions. We are completely committed to driving a profound shift. 2020 will be a defining year for nature and climate, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure COP26, which we have the honour of hosting with Italy, delivers a profound change. Thank you.
Minister.